Now, finally joining the show. I am so excited to talk to you, man.
The studio looks amazing, so I can't wait. I mean, when you make a play, all I want to do is scream and flex. I was loving every part of being that underdog and having that underdog mentality. You're in the big house, the crowd gets up and you get them going. You get that rush through your veins, and it's something that I desired. All we wanted to do was beat Ohio State. I think on and off the field, I really crossed off all the boxes.
Welcome into episode 3 of Hutch, brought to you by PFF and presented by Cash App. We look at the blazing start to the infamous 2021 season for the University of Michigan football program against low preseason expectations. They come off undefeated heading into East Lansing, a top 10 matchup against Michigan State that ultimately does not go their way, but fuels the rest of their season. We talk to former coaches, teammates, and more. Let's get it.
The Hutch podcast is brought to you by Cash App. Cash App is the easiest way to send, spend, and save your money. You can send or request money from your friends when they owe you for dinner, drinks, literally anything. Besides just sending money back and forth, with Cash App, you can invest in stocks with as little as $1, as well as buy, sell, and send Bitcoin instantly. It's really that easy. Cash App also lets you design your own debit card completely free to spend money anywhere you'd like. Cash App will laser print it and mail it to you all for free. And the card comes with free discounts at your favorite places called Boosts. Sign up for Cash App today using referral code HUTCHPOD, which gives new users $15, and Cash App will set aside $10 for each sign up to go towards the Chad Tough Foundation. The more people that use the code HUTCHPOD when registering not only get $15 for free, but you're also helping support the Chad Tough Foundation. The Chad Tough Foundation funds the most innovative, promising research on DIPG, which is underfunded compared to most cancers. The mission of the Chad Tough Foundation is to inspire and fund game-changing research to discover effective treatments for pediatric brain cancer, with an emphasis on DIPG. Download Cash App on the App Store or Google Play Store today.
The 2021 year for the Michigan program for you was such a monstrous year, right? Even going into this year, there were some high expectations of you. You're coming back from the injury, though. It's this guy who's like a fringe first rounder.
Right.
And with Michigan, the program, they're not even a top 25 team on the Associated Press poll. We've talked about that before as well. Let's put the injury past us here and talk specifically about your mindset going into the year, knowing that there was this kind of chip on your shoulder, right? There's this chip on all of Michigan. Jim had a chip on his shoulder, right? Everyone's growing this chip coming off of 2020 season that was not good. You suffered the big injury. They don't win a lot of football games. COVID impacts a lot of things. You can't play Ohio State. Then you go into 2021, and there's a lot of reason for unfinished business and a chip on the shoulder growing on a very, very talented football team, a team that should not be looked at as underdogs when you consider the talent that they had with Ajabo, McNamara, Haskins, Corum. It's just a very talented football team that's somehow being doubted. What was that mentality like in those early workouts, right? When you're back healthy, you're working with this team, knowing that nationally, not a lot of people see good things happening for Michigan in 2021.
Yeah, that was the first time in my Michigan career that we've actually been not ranked in the top 15 preseason, like going into the year, because being at Michigan, we have so much talent there, and naturally, guys, just all the preseason polls just put us top 15, whether we deserve it or not. It depends on the year, but my senior year, we weren't ranked at all. I mean, it was literally like the perfect storm going into that year, because there was no expectations, and I ate that shit up too. I mean, I was loving every part of being that underdog and having that underdog mentality, because that's kind of what I feel that I have already. And then now that we have it from a team perspective, now I mean collectively, now we can all come together and say, screw you, all the people that said we were going to win 6 games, 7 games, all of that, we're going to prove all of you wrong.
Oh, first and foremost, you saw the players take the team over. Aidan Hutchinson, Josh Ross, it just Andrew for starters. You saw guys really step up. Ronnie Bell, Hassan Haskins, they wanted to win in the worst way. And Aidan really kind of started that, with him being so vocal on his intent to come back. we watched him all off season go through workouts where he could barely run, and he's pushing himself as hard as he can, to recover back from that leg injury. And our players saw that. And they knew that if he was working to that level, they had to show up and work to that level as well. And so it was a player-driven team this past year. Mm-hmm. And that's oftentimes, a coaching cliche, they say, right? Great teams are led by great players. Well, honestly, that's really what it came down to.
Every guy on the team went through a 2-4 season. And, as a Michigan Wolverine, it's very disappointing and honestly quite embarrassing to lose that many games and have that record, in the winged helmet. And, I think the guys took it really personally, and we just really set our mindset that wasn't going to happen again. And I'm sure a lot of the other guys have mentioned just the cohesiveness of the team and the energy of the team. But, I'll reiterate that just really, we know from our first spring practice last year that this team had some energy and that this team was close. And I think the amount of fun that we had together and the amount of love that we shared for one another truly helped build the team that we had last season.
Another infamous story that I think Coach Harbaugh has made popular is this ring me out story. I'd love to hear from your perspective, Coach, just how much Aidan's leadership and also just how impressed you were with that team to bounce back from that obviously a rivalry loss in East Lansing.
Yeah, and that's something that really started right when the 2020 season ended, January. There was a group of core guys, Aidan, kind of a legendary story around here right now. But I mean, when the season ended, he went into the weight room and talked to Coach Herb and the other strength coaches. And the message was, hey, I'm coming back. And every single day I want you guys to get the most out of me. Ring me out every single day that I'm in here. I want to get my money's worth. I am hungry. And as Herb and the guys said, well, come on in, because it's a all-you-can-eat buffet right here in the Michigan weight room.
Right, where you're going into the season and you've come back for your senior year. There's maybe opportunity for you to be like this big man on campus, this guy that gets not necessarily special treatment, but treated differently.
Right.
You go to the strength and conditioning coach, I think Coach Herb, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go to Coach Herb and you say, hey, ring me out. I want your best every single day.
So it literally was like this. It was late spring. We got done with the workout, and Hutch sat down on a plyo box and looked at me and said, Coach Herb, he kind of just shook his head like this. And he said, as we go into the summer and we, transition into this thing, ring me out every day. Every day. Do not leave anything on the table. Right. And I looked at him, had a big smile, and I just said, yeah, Hutch, that's easy. Would love to. And the best part is that's really all I had to say, because I knew anything we asked him to do. And this is now, the projected #1 overall pick. Anything that you ask him to do, he's going to do it. He's going to do it technically very well, and he's going to give tremendous effort. And so that kind of just set the tone for everyone else.
I need your perspective on that story, because the way some of these players talk about it, I was talking to it was a handful of the younger players on that team, Corum and all these guys, Cade McNamara. They bring it up like it's lore, right? They bring it up like it's a shot from Lord of the Rings, where you come in and you're just like this big guy who says like, hey, I want you to give me it all. What was your mindset when that story went down?
Yeah, I didn't say it to be publicized necessarily.
Yeah. It's been publicized now.
I know. Like originally, I kind of just went to Coach Herb. It was after a workout, and I've always been a person that's been just trying to get everything I can out of this body, and that comes from making sacrifices off the field and doing what I do on the field and in a workout. So one day I just wanted things to be a little bit more difficult, because I want to get that much faster, that much stronger, that much sharper in my mental game. And I told Coach Herb, I want you to ring me out, and I want you to push me as hard as you can. And because I want to be the best player that I can be. And, you know, the next the next day I walk in and you know, I guess, you know, he told Coach Harbaugh, and then Coach Harbaugh told the media, and then, you know, next thing you know, Herb's telling the rest of my teammates, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess everyone knows now.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't mean for it to be,
because it was a one-on-one conversation.
It was
right?
one-on-one.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for it to come out like, you know, for me to be
like
this
a gladiator
the
speech.
gladiator. Like, I was just going in there and just, you know, saying what was on my mind. And it turned out, you know, Coach Harbaugh took it and ran with it. And now we're talking about it here today. But yeah, it was definitely just one of those things where I'm just extremely eager to be the best player and just best person I can be off that field.
The way that some of these players have talked about it, and some of the media has talked about it, it's like you came into this like full weight room, like blew the doors open, you're like, ring me out.
Smoke's rising as I'm talking about it.
Maybe the flames if Mia's there. I don't know.
That's right. We were all ready to rise from the ashes and show people that we're not the same team. That was just a fluke year, and that was really our whole mission. And we were all extremely motivated. None of us wanted to go out on that 2020 note. So, you know, we had a good amount of dudes coming back. Me, you know, Josh Ross, Brad Hawkins, talk about guys like that, talk about guys that, you know, are in those positions of leadership, and, you know, we're so big for our team, and you know, kind of being big cornerstones on that 2021 team.
Let's get to game one of the 2021 season. What's your mindset going into this game? It's your first opportunity to play in a live game since the injury, obviously, against Indiana. It's against Western Michigan, in-state, not necessarily rival, but there's some more juice to it. It's not completely out of conference like a West Coast team or anything along those lines. Going into this game, I think you guys are favored by a decent amount. You're expected to win this one. What were your goals going in? What was the preparation like going into that game? It had to have been, honestly, a little bit of a surreal experience, right? You know, getting back from this injury and get back on the field.
Yeah, you know, Western was a good football team too. They were really good in the MAC, and you know, we knew it wasn't going to be an absolute cakewalk. They actually played us pretty close at first, and but yeah, I mean, it was definitely a little bit emotional before the game, just because I know how far I've come in terms of my rehab, and you know, with the injury the previous year, you know, just a lot of work had gone into that season in terms of getting back, and you know, a lot of sacrifices were made in that off season in order to be where I was. So I mean, I was extremely fortunate to be there, to be healthy, and I wanted to start out that 21 season with a bang. You
did. And I think I was talking to Western Michigan head coach Tim Lester about his mindset going into that game. The game plan going in, you pretty much had all offseason to circle Michigan on your calendar, go against this defense, and really put together a soup to nuts game plan of how to beat up on this defense and obviously come out with a win. How much was Aidan a part of that game plan? And speak to what you saw on tape before going in and how you planned a game plan around him.
So I thought we had a decent plan against them, because the whole plan was about him. It was, how do we run? Do we run inside zone, add him or away from him? Do we run stretch, add him or away from him? We know we want to slide the line to him. And then the game started, and they started out in base defense, and he lined up into the boundary, and we were able to have a chance. We went down and scored, and then we went down and scored a field goal. We were in the game early. And really the name of the game, when they went to their nickel package and he went from the boundary DN to the field DN, we did not anticipate that. And he single-handedly in the second quarter took the game over. It was his show. Not that we were going to run the table with them anyway. At the point, we were hanging in there. And once he went to the field and we only had one guy for him, I mean, it was tackle for loss, third and long, punt. Tackle for loss, third and long, punt. We were trying to make changes, and then they go back to their base, and then he'd be in the boundary again. I've never seen there. However many defensive players I've played against that a D lineman takes a game over, but in that second quarter, he was the reason that we got in the huge hole. And at that point, we were in trouble.
Did it feel like that game plan was changing over the course? And you know, I guess what was your reaction to kind of how Western Michigan played you in that game?
Yeah, I guess you could say that a little bit. That was probably the first time that I've actually gotten that attention.
The attention,
you know, because my junior year, Quiddy was there. We were both kind of there, and then you know, my senior year, kind of just I was really the only notable returner. You know, because Ojabo really didn't play much in the year before, so I was really the only guy. So finally getting that attention at first was definitely frustrating a little bit, to say the least. You know, it was something that definitely throughout the season, I progressed, and you got to learn to accept it and to just know that your teammates have the one-on-ones, and if you take on this double or this chip or whatever, like, you're helping out your other teammates. So that's something that I definitely learned along the way.
You go to have a phenomenal game. Obviously, Michigan wins week 1 and starts to build this anticipation for what could be a really exciting season. But Ronnie Bell goes down in that game, and that had to have been tough. He was obviously an offensive playmaker for you guys, and someone that Cade was going to throw to probably all season long if he did stay healthy. Just a small piece of adversity right on the road. But how did the locker room respond to that injury? It could not have been easy. And what were some of the things that you feel helped the offense or the team specifically kind of bounce back from what obviously was a point of adversity?
Yeah, it was tough too, because Ronnie was a captain, and I remember in that first game he made this unbelievable one-handed catch, and then on I think it was the punt return is when he got the injury. But man, I could feel it. I already knew he was going to have a crazy year that year. I mean, he had great practices going into it, and but when he got hurt, other guys just had to step up, and I think that's what they did. I mean, I can't think of names off the top of my head in terms of receivers, but I mean, whenever one of your star player gets injured, I mean, other guys just got to step up and try to fill that void as best as they could.
I think it was Sandstrill, Andre Anthony, those guys are the ones stepping up. Moving to the second game of the season, you go against Washington. This is a formidable opponent, and Jimmy Lake is a guy that a lot of people respect, the head coach for Washington. They had Jackson Kirkland, an offensive tackle that some were billing as this first-round caliber player at the time, and this is where I really felt that the fringe first-rounder conversation was starting to fade, and more people were buying into you as this top 20, top 15 player at the time, especially after being on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list. You're highlighted this guy that's more than a high motor dude, more than this guy who's just like going to be the lunch pail type blue collar. So you go into this game and you absolutely dominate. I had you on my podcast shortly after that, and you say, everyone's nameless faces. Everyone's nameless faces. I just go against nameless faces. But that game had to have, especially the media coverage coming out of that game, knowing, going against a legit opponent, a legit NFL caliber tackle in Kirkland. What was your mindset after that game? You come out of Washington, you guys come out with this big win, you start the season 2-0, and you're starting to garner some attention.
Yeah, definitely. Going into that week, I mean, I'm not really on Twitter. I'm on Instagram a little bit, but it's like it's just in your face when you when you hear about the matchup and Kirkland being this this first round tackle, and I was licking my chops because I'm always excited with competition, and I want the best of the best, and I want to play the best of the best because that's how I know I'm going to get better. So I was super excited going into this week, and Kirkland, he's a hell of a player. It was I just had a really good day that day, and it was really one of those games for me that definitely one of my coming out games. Definitely kind of it was a little appetizer for this 2021 season. Definitely like okay, so this kid might be legit then. So that was definitely that Washington game. It was under the lights, night game, super crazy atmosphere, and I had one of my best games of the season, and yeah, it was great.
When you game plan somebody, it's easier during the year. You get multiple games on tape, the scheme, the personnel, all that stuff. We played them very early, so they had a new defensive coordinator. So we're watching like Ravens film to figure out what they may do. We go back to 2020. He didn't play much. I think he had 3 games. It was in 3 games. Had some tackles, no sacks. I think he had 5 sacks in 19. So he was a good player, and so we're trying to do a little bit of everything. And then you get game 1 and they're playing Western Michigan, who's more of a spread team. We were a little more multiple. And you could tell the guy was good. But then you also got 55 there, Jabo, and they got the safety Hill, number 30, and then you got the inside backer. I'm like, oh my gosh, they got some pretty decent players here, plus a new scheme. So you're trying to figure out everybody. So it was still probably a little bit early in the year to be like, hey, we need to worry about only this guy, because they had 55 off the other side, and they had a safety and a linebacker. For sure. So we knew he was good, and he was long and strong and fast and high motor. But after you play him and after you watch the rest of the season, maybe you would have done something a little bit differently going into that game.
So, somewhat of an appetizer for the entire Michigan season, right? I mean, this was like the I think people started to buy into the hype, right? You could start to see people getting on board the Michigan bandwagon, if you will, that they are this top 25 team, that they are going to do some damage here in 2021 after that win over Western Michigan and obviously Washington as well. You spoke to it a little bit, but that was the night game in the Big House.
Oh, yeah.
What's that atmosphere like? I mean, people talk about, I mean, if you haven't been to the Big House, one, you got to go. It's a legitimate bucket list item. Two, people talk about the energy it has. But until you're there, it's hard to really describe it. I guess attempt it for me at that night game against Washington.
Yeah. Night games at the Big House are special. And everyone that I've been a part of, they're so damn loud. And I just love the Big House. And it was definitely that first snap when they go out there and they got it was the delay of game or false start. I mean, that crowd was going crazy. And then they moved it back 5 yards. And then the second play, Josh Ross got the TFL. And, the place was going nuts. So, it's always fun playing in the Big House under those lights because, the fans are there and they're pretty energized and they're all into it.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Relationships take work. A lot of us will drop anything to go help someone we care about. We'll go out of our way to treat other people well, but how often do we give ourselves the same treatment? This month, BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to take care of your most important relationship, the one you have with yourself. Whether it's hitting the gym, making time for your haircut, or even trying therapy, you are your greatest asset. So invest the time and effort into yourself like you do for other people. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Give it a try and see why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Hutch listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Hutch. That's BetterHelp.com/Hutch.
The following game, NIU, it's a bit of a blowout. You guys win pretty handily. I think you only played 25 total defensive snaps in that game just because you're getting out because of the score. But the game after that is a classic Big Ten matchup, Rutgers, Michigan, where there are these expectations. You guys are 3-0 going into this game and expectations that you guys should win comfortably. But you guys go up 14-3 in the first quarter and kind of let them trickle in. The offense maybe not like getting off to where you need to be and all that stuff. 20-13 at the end of the half. What was your mindset going in when you started to see them creep back into that lead, right? Like that game, I think it's easy to kind of put Rutgers to the side, but that game was like a critical moment for you guys not to slip up, right? This is 100%. Like this first opportunity to slip up.
Yeah, that was our first moment of adversity in that season, because we got that early lead and then like the game was just a little bit weird and they started coming back. But, Jabo finished the game with the strip and we won. But, that was just a little bit weird. Josh Ross got hurt in the middle of that game, and he's the glue of our defense. He makes all the calls. He's so critical to our success. So when we lost him, we just got a lot of young guys at linebacker that are very talented, but they're young, and it was a great game, and it was one that I definitely had to step up in, especially when Josh left. I definitely had to step up my leadership with Josh not being there, and it was definitely the first moment of adversity, for our team. And, we ended up getting the win, which was huge, and it was huge for the morale as well.
You go on the road now, on the road to Madison after the Rutgers game. And it was, Wisconsin is a very tough place to play in, man. And it speaks, before we even get to this game, that atmosphere overall, Wisconsin had been insane.
The atmosphere was definitely more insane when we were there. What was that, 2018 or 2019? It was 2019. The atmosphere there was pretty wild. But I would say when we were there, we had control for most of the game, so it really wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But in 2019, when they were kind of blowing us out a little bit, the atmosphere was definitely wild, and they were jumping around, and that was always tough to see. So we finally got to jump around a little bit this year.
The jump around at Wisconsin had been great. You did control a lot of the game. You guys go up 7-0 in the first quarter. I think you lead 10-0, and then there's a lot of you and Jabo meet at the quarterback on that sack, right? And you get the forced fumble. Daxton Hill has an interception. Did that again, like I keep talking about like this build up for Michigan, right?
Yeah.
This is building into you guys ranked inside the top 20, you guys ranked inside the top 15. People are starting to talk about, is this the Michigan team that beats Ohio State? Is this the Michigan team that can win the Big Ten championship? How did you, I think there is a challenge to that, right? There's a challenge of like keeping that underdog mentality, right? Because as soon as you get too big, you can get knocked down pretty
100%.
quick. So what was that like after the Wisconsin game specifically?
Yeah, after the game, that game was our first real test as a team, and going into that, we knew they had a really talented defense, and I know the offense talked about that a lot, and I think they ended up scoring like 38 points or something like that. So offense definitely did their job, and we did our job as well. But the mission didn't change. Nobody was satisfied until we beat Ohio State, and that was always the mentality. I think that's what led to a lot of our success. We faced a lot of adversity in the middle of the season, but when we overcame it, it was like, all right, well, there's still Ohio State week 12, so we're constantly going to be looking for that game.
One of the more underrated games, I think, this past season at Michigan, or the 2021 season, is Nebraska. You guys go to Lincoln, Nebraska at night. This stadium is rocking, absolutely rocking. I think you guys are favored by a decent amount in this game. You guys are expected to win and beat Nebraska, but it's a nail biter. This is one where you have to show up big on a handful of drives in this game. What are some of the key moments, key stories for you from this one?
Yeah, Nebraska was just like a sneaky good football team.
Sneaky good. They lost to Illinois in the opening week.
Yep.
An Illinois team that no one expected to lose to. Yeah. And then they go into, they face on you guys who are top 20 teams at this time. They are a sneaky team.
I mean, I think there's a stat that every single one of their losses is like by single digits. And they played a lot of good teams too. And so, I mean, going into that game, we knew how good they were. And we had to play them at night in Lincoln. And let me talk about the atmosphere, though. I mean, that atmosphere, I would say, rivals that 2019 Penn State game where they had the Mo Bamba playing, and we had to take a timeout before even running a snap. But I mean, being in that atmosphere in Lincoln, I mean, it was so freaking loud, and they had this crazy third quarter thing, but that was one of those games that was like. That was just so tough, and the opponent might have a bad record, but they were talented all around the board, and it was just a gritty win, and probably a game that we shouldn't have won. But sometimes you get blessed by the football gods, and you get a strip at the end of the game for the win.
You're leading 13-0 at half. You go into the half against Nebraska in Lincoln. Did it feel like you guys were going to pull away? What was that halftime like? Because it didn't feel like a game where you guys were going to pull. It felt like a game that was going to be tough down to the wire.
Yeah, I thought when we were up 13-0, I was like, oh, these guys aren't going to score on us. Like we're going to win this game by a lot. And they go out on that first drive against us, and they score a touchdown off I think it was a little bit of a trick play. It was something I kind of forgot, but it was with that tight end, I remember. And
he's wide open in the middle of the field.
Yeah, wide open in the middle of the field. I think it was like fourth down or something, and they did a play. I don't even know what they did.
Their quarterback, Adrian Martinez, was impressive in that game too.
He was, and he's so athletic too. So he was, if there wasn't good rush lanes, he was getting out of there. But yeah, I mean, they come out at a half, score that touchdown against us, and then steadily in that second half, they started coming back, and our offense was making huge plays to keep us in that game. But defensively, in that second half, we did not play good, and we almost paid for it. But we got the strip at the end by Brad, and then we scored a touchdown, and that won us the game right there.
Where were you with the Haskins hurdle? That's the game with the infamous.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wait, did you see that live? What was your point of view on the Haskins hurdle?
Well, Hassan has hurdled about 20 guys this season. I feel like, I mean, he pulls that thing out once a game. So, yeah, I mean, I was just watching it on the big board, but I always love seeing him go up because he's so powerful that guys just try to go low on him to take him out, and well, then he goes over top of you. So he's really got everything in his bag. So hopefully he'll have a lot of success in the league.
He's a guy too. Talking to him for this project just really spoke to how fun it was to watch you.
Right.
Talking to some of the offensive players like McNamara, Corum, Andrell, and they're like, you got the front row seat to Aidan Hutchinson. Front row seat to David Ajabo in this defense, and I feel like you probably had some of the same watching Haskins run for sure.
Oh my God! I mean, him and Blake and Cade. I mean, they're all so much fun to watch, and even just Hassan hurling over dudes, Blake just being so quick and twitchy, and Cade throwing bombs. I mean, it was always fun watching all three of those.
You mentioned the key play. It's the strip. I think it's a design run from Martinez,
Yep.
and it was Brad Hawkins who forced the fumble.
Yep.
You dive in on the play though, and you're kind of
Yeah.
going for his legs. Did you
Yeah.
see the ball coming out, or what was your perspective? Because
you
you
know
kind of
what?
come in like kind of taking this guy down, like
I
chopping
know.
the tree down.
I'm clearing my name right now because I saw some things on social media after saying how I was trying to take out Adrian Martinez's knee. But you got to understand when guys are tackling the quarterback up top, he's still driving his legs,
Yeah.
and the boys are still pushing him. So I just tried to lift his feet up and take him out. And luckily, Brad stripped him before that. And it was a bit of a controversial play. They said the whistle wasn't blown, and everyone wants to complain and moan when you're not getting the calls. But that was definitely our game, and we took over at the end and we won.
Yeah, I mean, you come out of that, so you go after his legs, you come out of that, and you see the ball getting.
I had no idea how that even happened. I'm sitting there, I thought I just finished the tackle, and I look up, I see Brad running. I'm like, what in the world just happened? So, I mean, I was definitely happy to see that, though.
After the Nebraska game, I think that's a big opportunity, and not necessarily adversity, but it's somewhat of a wake up call, right? Like you guys can go to on the road, and just there's still opportunity for you guys to like lose, right? You're not like, you don't feel like undefeated and impenetrable, right? But then you go to Northwestern and it's a blowout. You beat Northwestern down pretty badly. You have another really phenomenal game in that one, and that kind of sets the precursor for one of the games I really do want to focus on. It's Michigan State.
Yeah,
this might be tough to bring up, Aidan. I get that. It's Michigan
tough.
State's a little sour, but
It's tough.
This was honestly one of the better games of the college football season. It's a top 10 matchup.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker III, the running back that's probably going to go inside the top 50 picks in April's draft. He's in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the ball, it's Ajabo, it's this Michigan team that can finally beat Ohio State, two top 10 teams.
I knew, the Michigan States that I played against, what you saw on film was going to be different than what you played against. When I was at Michigan State teams weren't all that good. In general, we tied them for the Big Ten championship that one year that we tied everybody. But you would watch their film, and then what you would play against would be incredibly different. And Aidan had already been in 3 of them and knew what it was like, and had his high school quarterback played for Michigan State, so he knew what this rivalry was all about. But you get into this, and you got a 16-point lead, and Ajabo gets a strip sack, and you get another touchdown, and all these things are going your way, and then they don't. And then the touchdown gets called back, and then you fumble. And this is what happens in these rivalry games. Clearly we should have closed that out, but Aidan will tell you he's not sure that they win the Big Ten championship if they don't lose to Michigan State.
Wow.
You don't really want to hear that, but a loss can oftentimes be more important than a win, especially if you do it early on and you do it in a fashion where, it's to your rival and it allows you to focus. And, because if they win that game, they're going to be, 2 or 3 in the country. And it's a very different season as opposed to you just gave away a big lead at Michigan State. Now you're going to get your butts kicked by Ohio State, and it's going to be the same thing all over again. So it was, very difficult in the stands because Michigan State fans are not the most pleasant people in the world. And this was one of the odd, in the parent section, we were like right at the back end of the parent section. So the Spartan fans were right behind us. And anytime Aidan didn't get a sack or hit the quarterback or make the tackle, there was some asshat screaming at us, because you can see that we have all of our Aidan gear on. Oh, look at that Hutchinson, he's overrated, and just screaming at it. And you're like, are you going to do this the entire game? And Aidan would get a sack and he'd be silent. And then Walker would, break a big touchdown. Where was Hutchinson now? And you're just like, is this seriously what we're going to go through the entire game? And it's like, this is what the Michigan State game is like. And I'm like, well, honey, at least we don't have to go to Ohio State this year, because that's even worse. They don't say anything. They just, punch, shove, spit, throw stuff at you. It's even worse. And, part of this is what makes the rivalry so, deep-seated and passionate. But as a parent, as you're trying to support your kid, it's a little challenging, because you want to turn around and, give them some words, but that's going to get you nowhere. And you hope that the other Michigan fans who may be around are going to help police these things, but it's still not, awesome to hear.
that 97, he's overrated. Just all these comments that keep coming. And you're like, I cannot wait to get out of here. This game cannot end soon enough. And then when you lose it, and the way that Michigan State is set up, both locker rooms come out from the tunnel and the team buses are past the sidewalk. So the players all have to walk basically through a gauntlet of Michigan State players who just heckle the hell out of them. And they were relentless, basically screaming at Harbaugh and screaming at every player they could get their hands on. And you mix that into the wound and it makes it ugly. And, you know, obviously Michigan State has their stories against us, but this is the reason why we don't like each other.
What was your mindset going in? You know, I think I've talked to a lot of people about this game and how important it was for you guys to have this like kind of small blip of adversity to kind of reset and march on this, again, the eventual goal of winning a Big Ten championship, beating Ohio State. But going into this game, what was that week of practices like? It had to feel a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, you know, you see the hype on social media. You know, it was the first time Michigan State met as two top 10 teams.
Yeah.
And so it definitely was a ton of hype. And a lot of my old friends go to Michigan State, so they were always in my ear all week, like they always are on the Michigan State week. But yeah, I mean, the week of preparation was nothing, nothing crazy. I mean, we were just, you know, I don't know if practice. I don't think practice was more physical. I mean, we're always physical in practice, so you know, we were just treating it as another game, but we knew the stakes were extremely high in this one.
Describe East Lansing to me in your least biased fashion, because East Lansing's different here. I know, Michigan State travels to Ann Arbor, it's a different story, but you go to East Lansing, this place is rocking, absolutely rocking. Yeah. First time, like you said, it's a top 10 matchup. You've been there multiple times. Describe the city.
Okay. Well, I don't have a ton of good things to say about East Lansing.
That's fine.
You know, I've been there once, non-football related, and you know, it's just I'm taking Ann Arbor over East Lansing every day of the week. Well, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Love that. You got sick on your recruiting trip there too.
I got sick on my recruiting trip. It's like every time I go to East Lansing, nothing good happens.
To speak more, and maybe not the city specifically, but the rivalry. Talking to your dad about it, a guy that I think he paints the picture well. And it's like it's this blue collar, in-state kind of brother rivalry, right? It's like brothers essentially. And I was talking to Jim Brandstatter, the voice of Michigan football, guy who's been on the radio forever. Yeah. It's like it's these guys that want to just beat the hell out of you, and they don't even care if they win, right? Like it's like more like we want to hurt you.
That game was the catalyst in making Michigan as good as they were from that game forward. My impressions of the game was that defensively, Michigan State did a great job. Mm-hmm. Their coaches did a great job. There were times when Michigan's defense wasn't set. They took advantage of Michigan and Mike McDonald's late substitutions to get personnel groupings on the field to match the other guys. Michigan State coached us on that, got players in there and made some plays. We got a bad call when Aidan stripped the ball from the quarterback and it was in the end zone. It should have been a touchdown. It should have been our ball. The referee, the stupid guy up in the booth, decided, no, we're not going to overturn that. It was clearly a fumble, but he overturned it, and that saved some points for Michigan State. Now, that being said, you got to overcome those things. We didn't.
It's these guys that want to just beat the hell out of you, and they don't even care if they win, right? Like it's like more like we want to hurt you, and I think that is evident in how that game usually plays out, especially when it was in East Lansing. This place is rocking. But like, speak to the rivalry and just your experience, the go green versus go blue.
Yeah, it is different, especially from that Ohio State game. It's just it's a different rivalry. It is gritty. I mean, if there's one word to describe it, I would just say gritty. Just compared to that Ohio State rivalry, you know, that because there is that whole little brother, big brother kind of thing going on with that, and you know, it's just a very dirty game, and when you're in it, you know, like people just try to do dirty things to you, and you know, some dudes are trying to do some dirty things to me, and it's kind of screwed up, but like that's kind of how the game goes, and yeah, I mean that's kind of the rivalry in a nutshell right there. It's dirty, it's gritty. Like you better put on about 5 pounds for that game because you know it's about to get real.
That's incredible. In this game, you have Andrel Anthony exploding. The receiver gets a 7. You guys lead off 7-0. You guys are, in a really dominant fashion. Like, you guys are leading this game. You're controlling this game.
Yep.
Jabo has a sack. You guys are up 30-14 going into the third quarter, and then you have it all starts to collapse. I mean, speak to when you guys were in control. You're in control in this game, right? I think everyone I've talked to about this game specifically, it was a game that you guys expected to win, a game that you guys were controlling. What was, like, when you guys are up 30-14, was there this sense of, like, we have this in the bag, or what were you guys' heads at?
Well, we were up 30-14, and we had the control.
It should have been up more, too.
They didn't have any momentum, and then Jabo gets the strip sack, which is a strip sack, and I recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. It should have been 37-14, and the game would have been over at that point. And then, the Big Ten, once again, helps Michigan State out in this rivalry, and holds their hand to the victory, and gives them the gift of no strip sack. So, and then we had a fumble, had a couple bad plays on defense. Momentum starts swinging a little bit against us, and so it's a weird phenomenon when you're on an away game and when you're at an away game, and you can feel that momentum shift, especially as a player, playing in it, and it feels like the whole world is just the weight of the world's on your shoulders, and you can't do anything about it sometimes. So that's kind of how I would describe it, just kind of how away games sometimes feel to me.
No, I think that's exactly what it looked like, to be honest, too. Right. It felt like that there was this momentum from Michigan State that's just like crashing in, especially after that call, right? And you even said, we've talked about this, but like the Big Ten officials come out and apologize to Harbaugh. How much does that apologize mean to you, or that apology mean to you?
It doesn't matter. I mean, you might as well just not say it at all, because it hurts more that they apologize, because now I know that it really should have been a touchdown.
Oh man, that's brutal. And you mentioned it. JJ McCarthy has that fumble. You guys are, I think, up 33-30 at that point. Yeah. Then I mentioned him, but I'd love to hear, just, you played against him, Kenneth Walker. I mean, this guy absolutely takes over in this game. It's one of the better running back performances we saw all of last year, right? So, your experience playing him, and just, I guess, how impressed you were with his efforts.
Yeah, he was super talented, and as much as it pains me to say it for a Michigan State guy, but no, I mean, that was his Heisman moment right there. That was like his moment as a running back at Michigan State. So, good for him. And he was super talented, very fast, agile, and I think definitely has a lot of those traits to be a successful back. And that was his day, definitely, when we played him, for sure.
Afterwards, you didn't hear anyone. And Jim Harbaugh, this is, again, I thought one of the great parts of what Jim Harbaugh did this past season. He told everybody in that room, man, this means nothing. We still have every goal we have is in front of us. We can still do what we came here to do. We just now have no room for error. We have to win every game. So the pressure's on. And every kid took that to heart.
So coming out of that game, right, it's a upsetting loss, one that, like you said, you had control over it. Refs blew a call, apologized for call. You guys, all this stuff. You ultimately lose, and there's an opportunity, in my opinion, compared to previous Michigan seasons, for this Michigan team to fall, right? To let this loss sink them into another 8-win, 9-win, 7-win season, right? You lose the rivalry games. It's kind of what's been on Harbaugh's mind. It's been a part of Harbaugh's legacy at Michigan for a while. You don't, though, right? You come on this big bounce back. You guys go on this tear. You lead, among others, a players-only meeting after that. I've heard it from others' perspectives on what exactly went down in that, but talk about the goal of that meeting, why you guys had that, and what was specifically said.
Yeah, it was a tough meeting, because we're coming off a game that we really believed we should have won, and but there's nothing you can do about it. So we really just wanted to recenter ourselves and focus on what's important, and that was beating Ohio State and winning a Big Ten championship. And I remember being in that meeting, just getting a little emotional talking about it, because I cared so much about the guys and everybody in that room, and I could see on their faces, like, how bad they all wanted it, and just how pissed off we were. So I think we really just carried that over to the following weeks and kind of, let someone's got to pay for our pain. That's what I said a lot. Just because, we hit this adversity, we hit this big roadblock. And so it's like, now what are we going to do? We're going to lay down and surrender, or are we going to keep fighting? And so, there was no Big Ten championship guaranteed. There was no beating Ohio State guaranteed, but everyone on that team kept fighting and kept pushing. And we all knew that wasn't the end of the road.
What do U.S. News, PC Magazine, and Popular Science have in common? They all ranked Simply Safe Home Security as the best home security of 2021. In fact, U.S. News just named Simply Safe the best home security of 2022. Simply Safe has freed me from worry and given me peace of mind while I'm out traveling or visiting teams ahead of the draft. Simply Safe protects your whole home around the clock, 24/7, every door, window, and room. It's backed by the best 24/7 professional monitoring in the business, ready to dispatch police, firefighters, or EMTs to your home. Simply Safe is less than $1 a day, and you can set it up in around 30 minutes, and it's always simple to use. There's never a long-term contract. You can even try it for 60 days risk-free to see if you like it. If you don't, send it back free of charge. There's nothing to lose. Simply Safe protects over 1 million homes in the United States alone. Check it out. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/hutch. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring. Go to simplysafe.com/hutch.
Coach Harbaugh, I think his words, kind of lasted with me. I think what gave me a really strong impression is he says, this doesn't matter. This game does not matter. We can still accomplish what we want to accomplish. And I think that can be, very powerful in those moments, right?
Still prove it. Every week became a playoff mentality. But the way our team handled that was like a bump in the road. It was like you're driving down the road, hit a bump, and and kept right on going and accomplished the great things that the team accomplished. So,
right.
How much did you take that specifically, those words from Harbaugh to heart? Because it felt like that's exactly the mindset you guys need to have. You cannot afford to focus on this game and allow it to kind of cripple you guys and put you guys into these modes that you've been in previous years.
Yeah, it's that was completely true. Just because the only reason why it hurt so bad is because it was the in-state rivalry, and you just want it for your pride and your ego that you can say that you beat Michigan State, but we didn't, and it was something that we had to move on from if we wanted to still accomplish our goals, which we could. So Coach Harbaugh knew that, and that was something that I really thought about too. Is at the end of the day, we can still win this Big Ten championship, and that's all that matters. If you ask me if I would rather win a Big Ten championship or beat Michigan State, I'll take that Big Ten championship 10 times out of 10.
What's the advice to the underclassmen now this upcoming season? The one that you'll be watching on TV when they don't go to Michigan State this year. They're coming to Ann Arbor. What's the advice? What are you hoping for in that game?
Well, for my boys, they have that pain and that suffering now. They have all that they need to carry over for this year. So I don't really think I have to say a whole lot to them, because they already know that they already know what this rivalry is, and they know. I know they're gonna get it this year. I already know it.
My perspective on it is, you don't lose this game. You don't face this adversity in the season. There is reason to believe that you don't go on this war path to close out, right? Because there's sometimes you talk about like a loss that you need. It's better to come early than it is to come late. Do you necessarily agree with that? Do you agree that like this loss was kind of instrumental in you guys going on this run against Penn State, against Maryland, then you go beat Ohio State, Big Ten championship? Do you feel like it was that important, that critical to your guys' dominant run towards the back end, or was it just a kind of a happening on the season?
It definitely gives me peace of mind to think like that.
It's an excuse. We needed to lose that game.
Yeah. It definitely, to put it that way, it definitely puts ease at my mind, because we had talked about it, and I talked about it with my parents like that. Like that game needed to happen in order to, we all be like, okay, this is do or die now throughout the season. But yeah, no, I do agree with that. As bad as I wanted to win that game, I don't know if we'd have the same drive Yes, we wanted to beat Ohio State, but losing that Michigan State game was just hurt, and it hit a different point, and it just hit a little bit different, and it hurt, and I think that's really what propelled us. I don't know if that's what helped us beat Ohio State or really just have that motivation for the rest of the season, but I think it did something for sure.
You're listening to Hutch, a 4-part podcast series brought to you by PFF and presented by Cash App. This podcast is hosted by Austin Gale, myself, and executive produced by Tyler Mowbray and Aidan Hutchinson. David Sofaro, PFF's Director of Communications, is responsible for all interviews in the podcast. Video editors are Mike Quinn, Tyler Sobchik, Ryan Richardson, Ethan Hornsby, and Stone Rochelle. Radigen Sports, specifically Ryan Henderson, Jenny Cronin, and Alex Radetsky, made this all possible. Mia Hutchinson on as a content producer, and Melissa Hutchinson as a creative assistant. Sponsors are Cash App, Simply Safe, and BetterHelp. Sponsors lead, Connor Price. Thanks for listening.